So, Jake, we've been doing this now for a while. I don't know if we should keep starting the episode like this because I guess it's just going to become a regular occurrence.
Yeah, I think we're always delighted and shocked that we have the Sitzfleisch to keep going, that we're pushing through. But I have to tell you that there's a lot of positive feedback from unlikely sources. People who I would
Yeah,
never expect would listen, who don't listen to me face to face, happen to tune in on the
I've heard that
podcast.
too. That was also very surprising. People are saying they put our podcast on for their commute. That's saying something, I think. Um,
Maybe we put them to sleep, maybe we ease them. I don't know what it is, but I mean, I learn every podcast. I think it's
that's
exciting how
true. Yeah,
so I'm if for no one else, I'm doing it for myself because each time we
same.
have someone who's giving great new perspectives on topics I thought I knew about, but they're really shedding light on different areas.
Same. It's really like this idea that we want to learn from other people that we don't always get a chance to speak to, or they don't always get a chance to speak to the wider audience, especially where we kind of have like a bubble in marketing and sales, but there's a whole go-to market mechanism and machine, whether you're everything from the founder, product, dev, and design, and today's guest, part of the recruitment effort into the go-to-market arena and SaaS world. We have someone who we've worked with and recruited from Tahl Wilson.
Tahl's in the
Welcome,
house,
Tahl.
ladies and gentlemen. Tahl. So we know each other for about 20 years, thereabouts. And I'm going to introduce you
Wow.
properly, but in addition to our friendship, you have been a builder of Israel high tech in a recruitment capacity for 20 years. And so you've got your own business that you do recruitment. And so you've probably seen hundreds and thousands of people. We're so thrilled to have you, Tahl Wilson, in the
Yes,
house.
welcome.
No, I think I really see it as, I mean, I came from nonprofit, where I was helping new immigrants find work in Israel and integrating into Israeli society. So I've always kept that, as my mission to help people find work. That's always been who I am behind the scenes. So I really care. I think that most of us, most headhunters really care about the people that they work with, and try and help people find work from a place that isn't, just to make that money. Obviously it is a business, but the way that I see it, at least, is finding people, helping people find their parnassa. That's how
I
I've
love that.
always.
I agree with that. And Jake, you've said that also. That now I understand the 20-year friendship and connection. Jake, you've also said those exact words. I think is something that's people who are able to drive, people who move to Israel, make Aliyah, new immigrants, to get them that parnasa. It's so important. I think that's like number one when I speak to people who are coming to Israel. It's like just get a job, any job really.
Right,
It's so key.
but I
Tell,
think that, yeah,
from an order of magnitude, how many people, like you probably have
I
helped
have
place
no idea. I really,
hundreds?
Thousands.
I don't know, but I think more importantly, it's really, and it sounds so, but it's really the relationships. It's really being able to answer, hey, Jake, what's up? And it's no longer that formality. It's really knowing who you are and your character, and being able then to be your advocate from a place that is real, from a place where I really feel like I know you, and there's some type of consistency of, yeah, I don't know, the not just the relationship, but also knowing the person and their personality, and that you really can stand behind that person.
So
Do you
maybe
have
that's
to
a great
maintain?
way to take that off, because like maybe we don't know, like as a candidate or as a recruiter ourselves, maybe we don't understand the workings. Like need the right person, and we're inundated with hundreds of applicants, and maybe we can hear from your perspective as to the role that you play and how you cut through that noise and help us find the right people, or on the opposite, if they're candidates, how they get visibility and position themselves as the right person.
Because it's a relationship on both sides, right? You're saying
Definitely,
relationship
definitely. I
building.
think
Yeah.
that's really the balance. I mean, that's, I don't want to call it an art or anything, but yes, there's sort of a skill set that you have to build where you you're in between both sides, and you have to find that balance. Because, the company is paying you to find them the right person, and you're getting candidates all the time, and you, in many cases, you understand what the company is looking for. And a lot of times it's really working with so many different people in order to find that right match. And if you're asking me, let's take first the candidate side. I think it's really very important for a candidate to understand that it's a long-term relationship. And when they're working with a headhunter, it's crucial for that person to be transparent, and for the headhunter to really know that they have a type of a partner or someone, the person that they care about, that they want to help. That candidate has to be very straightforward, has to be honest, has to provide not only the information as far as what they're looking for, but to realize that I'm here to help them. And that means not ruining my reputation along the way as well. I mean, I've had candidates where, I thought they were looking for a full-time position, and then in the interview, they actually wanted something freelance, or they actually wanted to relocate, or they actually, eventually I understood that they were looking only to go through a process in order to raise their, salary eventually.
Right.
You want to work with someone who will be honest with you and will give you all the information that they need, and will be a partner in the sense of also communication along the way, giving you answers, how the interview was, get back to you with whatever information they can in order for you to be able to help them.
How
It's
much?
a type of reciprocation.
I was gonna say, how much do you factor? Because it sounds like personality and culture also play a bit into it. I was just, as you were saying that, I was thinking, because someone just mentioned also about, work, how most people that I speak to actually say the people that they're working with is one of the number one things that they're talk about as far as like job satisfaction or what they're looking for in next role. They say, "Oh, I hate my boss and I hate my team, and I need to go, but I love the work and I like what I'm doing, or it's safe." Versus, okay, the work is okay, but I love my team and I'm happy. I wake up energized to go in and collaborate and work with the team. So is that something that you feel is such a key element? Because yeah, you were saying how like people aren't communicating, aren't open about necessarily what they want.
Right. Look, I think it's very complex, especially now in these times, because people are looking for stability. People have always been looking for stability. There are a lot of toxic cultures out there. There are a lot of situations where either the CEO or the team or the manager, whatever it may be, isn't the most pleasant place to work. And you find a lot of people, and rightfully so, and I tell them as well, I mean, I'm the first person to tell someone to stay where they are, as long as they're happy and that they can, it isn't that toxic,
Right.
and try and see what they can do in order to make things better. Whether it's speaking to a direct boss, or whether it's, a lot of times people are looking for certain impact in addition, where they feel that they're hollow, or whatever it means. So whatever it may be. So trying to find different side activities to fulfill that need of theirs. With regard to people not feeling happy about their day-to-day, there are a lot of situations where you really need to try and hang in there, especially in these times, with the instability outside and the fact that it's so hard to find work today. So sometimes, suddenly, I mean, I'll know the situation, but I can't say anything, where I know that their boss is also looking for work, or different things like that, where you just can't share them. and you're telling people, just hang in there, try a little longer, don't leave
That's really
without trying
interesting.
something first.
Tal, you were talking about, firstly, one of the things you said is very interesting. I know that
That's really interesting.
a candidate you said it's a long-term relationship. I think that's very important because in the eyes of the candidate, they may be feeling pressure of that day-to-day toxic environment, but they have to understand that you're in the business for 20 years and they're going to meet you now or later. So I think that that's important, that they have to maintain that. I'm sorry to hear that people are not straightforward with you. I mean, or with anybody.
Especially since you have all this inside information that you obviously can't breach the trust on either side. But we have to trust you in this balancing act. I think it's not easy. It sounds like.
I mean, I don't want to vent, too much. No, but
Please, this is we're all friends.
There's situations of ghosting, and there's situations where I'll try and help someone, and they won't even tell me that they found something new, or that they'll share the place that I shared with them with friends who go directly and they circumvent me. There are a lot of situations like that where they don't realize that it's a small country, and you find things out. And if they expect me to help them again, that won't happen, because it really hurts. I mean, to the point where I can cry from things like that. I'm very, very sensitive. And when I say I care, I really mean it. I'm very passionate, about situations where, especially when people are having certain issues and trouble.
Right.
I'll really try and go out of my way to be that person's advocate. And you just, you don't do it in order to receive anything back or anything, but, to let the person know that you found something, or even to share posts, or, if your company is hiring, to come back and say, you helped me so nicely, I'd love to have you work with us. Different things like that keep that relationship going and make you appreciate one another, because it really is it's a cycle.
Tal, can I ask you?
Work is a cycle. Sometimes,
sure,
you need me, and sometimes I need you, and it just works like that.
And I think the nature of it, I think placing people, like we said before, like with their earning, like their livelihood, how they're able to make money, provide for their family, it's an emotional investment. Sounds like very much so.
And I hear a lot of stories, a lot of very sad stories, a lot of frustration. I know I can't always help. The market is such where it really is very hard. I think things are a little bit better right now. Things have improved. But in the past 2 years, you have a lot of people who have lost their jobs. Companies aren't really hiring.
High tech,
Gatekeepers are becoming younger. It's
Right.
just becoming more of an obstacle. And at least, I mean, what I'm trying to do is not only to listen, but to coach people with different tips. I mean, just some tips. I think what candidates need to know is, I think that the most important thing is to come with some type of energy. You have a lot of candidates that are coming to interviews without energy, without smiling, without sitting up straight, without understanding what the details are, as far as the job requirements, without reading about the position, without reading about the company and the person who's sitting in front of you.
So are candidates burnt out? Are candidates burnt out? Because just before this call, I just saw a post on LinkedIn where someone said they had an AI interview where the interviewer was a chatbot, and he was answering. It was a voice chat, and it was doing a transcription as he was going, and there was an error in the transcription, and it was just one of these like situations like I didn't say that, I didn't say it. It's like if someone is in that path, I can understand why it's tough to bring in energy, but. Yeah, I totally agree with that. When I was on the interview circuit, every time you go out, it's got to be full energy. Tell us more about the market, though. Like, what are there jobs that are posted or not posted out there? You mentioned skills. What are some of the skills that are becoming requirements, basically?
So look, I specialize in more of the business side of things, everything that faces outward. And I usually work with Israeli startups in Israel and abroad, and I help them build their infrastructure. So I think, like I said, since January, things have started to pick up. There are more and more opportunities, but
That's good to
companies are
hear.
really taking their time. I'm sorry.
I would say that's good to hear. There are
Yeah,
strong
no,
signals.
thank God. Thank God. Because, in the past 2 years, what's happened, or what the case was, companies were hiring on their own. They had their own team hiring in-house. A lot of it was through Chaver Mevi Chaver. They
Right.
weren't using headhunters as much, and so it really became a situation where, a lot of frustration and helplessness in the market. And I think now uh, they're turning to us
Right.
more often, and that allows me to be more of an advocate for people.
Mhm.
I think if you take people who are having trouble with finding work, I think it's a situation that's always been the case, where people are just sending resumes to everything, as
Mhm.
opposed to really focusing on what it is they want and what they feel they do best. What's your
Mhm.
added value, and how can you communicate that added value to the company or to the person in front of you when you're having an interview? I
Mhm.
think that's really crucial, and that's why I tell people to take because companies, they want people to start straight off. They want someone who comes from cyber, if it's a cyber company, if it's an AI company, if it's a company that deals with agriculture, whatever it may be, that person is really going to have much more of an opportunity to get their foot in the door if they come with that background. So you
Sure.
have to find, what is that niche, what is that specialty that you come with, and to turn to those companies that specifically deal with that specialty, because they're looking for that blue eye and brown eye. And if you have that blue eye and brown eye, turn to those companies that are looking specifically
Right.
for that.
Right.
Don't try turning. I mean, in Israel, it's never been skill set. It just hasn't. You have to have the
Yeah.
specific experience that they
Mhm.
are looking for.
But do you
Um,
think that people are missing out on quality candidates who can really drive, especially you're saying their business side, who really know the skills on how to drive revenue? We're coming from marketing. I think the cliche is like, we learned everything from Google, right? Just we didn't learn anything when we studied marketing. It's just about learning on the go, and kind of having the skill set and curiosity to just absorb what you need to know. It's From my perspective, it sounds like companies might miss out on people
oh, for sure.
who have
That's
proven
always been an
revenue
issue.
generation.
The issues of transferring your skill set or having that potential, it's always been an issue in Israel. And I mean, I've tried over and over again to say to the company, look, a lot of times I feel like saying to the hiring manager or to the CMO or whoever it is, you didn't come from cyber either,
Right.
Right.
and you're here, but I can't do that. But yes, it's very, very hard to make a transition if you don't come specifically from the industry or the domain. Um, and so, yeah, so I tell candidates, first of all, networking is always key.
Mhm.
Um, I think it's a combination of both. It's, again, if I go back to working with headhunters, always be open about whether you sent your resume already or not.
Oh my
Um,
gosh.
Yeah.
because if you have and you say to the recruiter, you haven't, or the headhunter, then it really
Oh.
hurts, and I won't work with that person again.
Right.
But a good way in is really working with a headhunter, who can be that person's advocate, and
Mhm.
then reaching out to the network from within. And that way, somehow, that person, Yossi, will come to the HR chen, and say to her, I understand that your resume was my resume was sent in, or no, sorry, my friend's resume was sent in.
Right.
He's so great. I highly recommend meeting
Mhm.
him. And then you have two,
To
people
advocates.
who are advocating, and it really helps. And I just think that today, people have to be very focused about their search. They have to think about how they present themselves, salary expectations, to try and understand what the range is, and not to overprice. to come in and say, look, I'm looking for X, but I'm flexible. There are a lot of situations like that as well, where you have people who are used to a certain amount and they don't realize how
the market's changed. Yeah,
exactly.
Tahl,
sometimes it's better
you're
to have a
working with
job
these,
than not.
you're working with these leaders, and you're a saleswoman as well. You're selling
Right.
a passionate, informed service. And the alternative for the leaders is, well, I get 500 resumes every time I post on LinkedIn. So maybe tell us about those people who chose to in-house the service with HR, or do it themselves, or headhunt.
Right.
Who is the right
I
person
think
to work with someone like you?
so for the company, again, I
Yeah.
don't want to. I mean, I don't want to toot my own horn, but
go ahead.
Especially in this country where the people. I've been doing this for over 20 years. I've grown. I mean, that sounds sort of obnoxious, but I've really seen people grow, and within the various different companies, and I know the companies, and I know the hiring managers, and I know the CEOs, and I know the reputations, and I know, the reputation not only of the company, but the people within the company. And so I don't really understand why companies don't realize that working with a headhunter is saving them time. Saving them time means saving them money, because it's not just receiving someone on a piece of paper or LinkedIn profile. It's really knowing, just like how we started the conversation, it's knowing that person over time. It's knowing what that person can deliver. It's knowing, how that person is as a manager, because I've heard from people who have worked for you. I know what you bring to the table. I know who you can be and how creative you are. Different things like that,
Right.
Someone who is, again, I'm not trying to put people down, but there are, recruiters who are relatively very young, who don't have that, who don't bring that type of value. And
so let me maybe push back just for clarification. Like, have you
Right.
tracked over time your duration of the placements you have versus the average duration? That would be a compelling argument, certainly on the saving time in the process. It's terrible to go through all the CVs, and that's why people just default to refer a friend, right? But I'm sure the value you bring is curating. These are the candidates that I think match what you've told me. Have you seen any of that?
So I don't know if I understand your question. Can you repeat that?
Have you seen that the candidates that you've selected and that you've recommended have bigger impact?
They have more staying power.
Of course. I mean, that's the best feeling in the world, where a company has been looking for someone for 2, 3, 6 months, even a year, and then I come in and that's the best feeling in the world.
But do you find that?
I'm sorry.
Do you find that? I was going to say that, but you also find that your candidates stay longer in the role.
Oh, so
no, but what you just said was also 100% makes sense, of course.
No, so as far as retention goes, that's my dream, for someone to really be able to build and scale a company and to manage a team and to have an exit at the end. I have had so many situations where I wish I had even like 0.25% of, just a tiny bit of equity or whatever. I would have been in a different place. But yeah, I've brought a lot of candidates to companies who have done very well. It's nice to see. But
by the way, that's a great idea.
That's my goal, for the person to stay and to love their job and to be happy and to grow professionally and to continue building.
You just gave me a great idea for, I don't know, just you mentioned that having a little piece of equity as part of the headhunting compensation. If the compensation package includes an option grant, you can have a side letter saying you get one share. Imagine getting 1 share for every candidate in every company in Israel, and it kind of diversifies your portfolio. Might be an interesting mechanism. You can maybe speak to Avi about that.
Easier said than done. We're working on hard contracts as it is. It's hard as it is.
Right, sure.
So, Tahl, how are you managing as an entrepreneur, where people are trying to go direct, and then certainly you have the value? How are you getting the cut through that you have the value add, that you can save them the time? People know you. You're one of the icons of Israel's go-to-market recruiting. But it's challenging because everyone says, I'm inundated.
Yeah.
So how do you manage that argument?
So in the past 2 years, it's been very, very hard. Usually, especially after doing this for so many years, you would, I was used to, and again, I'm not trying to toot my own horn, I really am not. But you're used to hearing from people and people turning to you. And then in the past 2 years, it was a situation where there really was no work, to the point where, I'm counting my blessings. Thank God, kids are great, with everything going on, I have no complaints. But I think that I took it very hard, and I think my colleagues as well, that there were so many companies that were hiring in-house and not working with recruiters, and we really were out of work, seriously out of work with no parnassa. And that's the time where you really say to yourself, wait a second, I've placed so many CMOs, I've placed so many HRs, I've placed so many product marketing people or salespeople or whoever it is, and they're still hiring SDRs, they're still hiring account executives, they're still hiring, demand gen or whatever. Why aren't they reaching out to work with me? It's a situation, and yes, of course, there are companies who did not have the budget to work with headhunters, but there was always that anticipation or hope, that there would be that type of reciprocation.
Sure. From my perspective,
and also, especially from people who we've helped over the years and brought them forward, moved them forward. So, but yeah, anyway, so now you're asking about how we push through. Then yes, you use those connections. Like you said, I'm a salesperson. I reach out to people, I network, I see if there's something I can help with. I look at different job sites and see that there are open positions. Can I help? And then that help is really sending one or two people that I feel are the best for the position, and showing my value. And that way I don't know.
well, Jake, I can tell you,
that
it
connection.
makes sense. I make sense. For Jake, from my perspective, I remember there were times, when we have a job posting out, you're right, we get hundreds, but the ones that the ones that go to the top of the list are from the recruiters and the friends referrals.
Yeah.
And the friends are on the recruiters. That's it. Everything else, it's tough to say as someone who's been in that position of having to review, over 100 submitted CVs. It's not easy, and I would 100% I recommend to everyone to go through a recruiter. Obviously, I say do the easy apply, do everything you can to get a job, right? But the number one advice that I give is to go through a recruiter.
It's not just sending the resume. It's not just being that advocate. 100%. It's the whole process. It's being there for the candidate and the company. If I take the candidate, then it's helping them along. It's giving them different tips. It's answering their questions. It's listening to how they feel about the process. It's listening to how they feel about the company. It's checking different things for them if they have questions. It's really holding their hand. And for the company itself, it's giving them feedback. It's helping them, answer their questions about the candidate. If they missed something, or if they have a question about something, saying to them, look, maybe this person didn't come with energy, but there's a reason for it. Constantly balancing that.
So Tahl, one of the things I've seen is, like, when I've had someone say, can you help me find an XYZ? And then I said, well, why do you want that? And so we have a discussion, and sometimes the job description changes. You've got so much experience, and you've placed so many people. When you're working with executives to find the right talent, are you able to have that discussion, or do you see yourself as the honeydew, go honey, do this for me? Or do you have a really, are they willing to flex on those points? And do you see that you're influencing the criteria and the search?
So it really depends on who I'm speaking with. That's why I love working with CEOs and startups, early stage startups, because there I feel I have some type of, say. As the company grows, and you're working, instead of with a CEO, you're working with a VP HR, and then you're working with a recruiter, and then you're working with an admin or whatever it is. And again, I'm not saying anything negative about any of these, professional people. I'm just saying that as far as my ability to make a difference, when I'm working with a CEO, then a lot of times, and again, I really am trying to be modest here. I'm just saying that because of the experience, I sometimes know what they need more than they know what they need. Because I've been there and done that. And I understand that, to start with product marketing in many cases is smarter than starting with demand gen or sales or whatever, sure. and to start with an SDR as opposed to starting with a VP in the US, different things that can save them money and time.
With the right people.
Experience. And the CEO, sometimes they'll listen and sometimes they won't. But if you're working with VP HR or a recruiter who's younger, who doesn't, understand as much or doesn't have the impact, then there really isn't anyone. You just have to follow along.
You've mentioned age, I think, a few times. I know this might be a tough question. Yeah. I know you've posted about it online. What age? How does age factor into this? Are you seeing a serious issue with ageism? And even just a tie-in with AI, and you're saying, as the people you interface are getting younger, they probably only want to work with younger people, even though that someone who has more experience might be better. And I don't know, what's that balance?
Okay, so
it's a tough one, huh?
It's very interesting because I remember myself, 20 years ago, Jake, and I thought to myself, wow, someone who's in sales will never have an issue because they have their voice and they have the drive and they have, suddenly you're finding a lot of older salespeople that are having trouble finding work.
Wow.
And, the word isn't shocking, but yes, I never thought that would be the case. And so, yes, when it comes with energy and the burnt out aspect and coming in for a face-to-face interview when the gatekeeper is younger, it really becomes an issue. So I tell people, first of all, they have to bring their numbers. They have to bring the ability to really articulate and communicate their value. Because older people, with everything that's always written, these things are constantly said again and again. They don't have young children. They can work the hours that are necessary. They're less spoiled. They've been there, done that. They know how to do the sale with confidence. If it's marketing as well, I've had a lot of situations where, especially now, it's very interesting. People don't understand. Israelis don't want, and I'm talking specifically with Israelis or Americans, they don't want the ruach. They don't want the fluff. They want the bottom line. And you have companies suddenly in Israel that are bringing marketing back to Israel as opposed to sending, CMOs to the US or hiring in the US. Because suddenly that cultural difference, they're not getting their money's worth from that, $450,000 CMO, and they're hiring back in Israel because that person will be hands-on. They know, as far as communicating, this is also key.
Regardless of age, you're saying, regardless of age.
Regardless of age, if this person knows how to articulate the fact, not just the how, but the why behind the numbers, knows how to show how they brought the company from X to Y, what they did and what needs to be done and how they can save the company money. Again, obviously there needs to be a budget and obviously, the CEO needs to understand that it isn't always straightforward, but that CEO needs to have confidence in the person. And sometimes, yes, that CEO hopefully will have confidence in someone who's been around the block and has done it before. But again, that comes with the person has to know to come and read the material and read about the domain and bring examples of how he plans to do it and to really do their homework before they come in for the meeting. And you have a lot of people who are not doing that. And it's very
incredible, unbelievable in this market that people are not prepared. Tahl, I want to do a lightning round because we've taken a lot of your time. Can we do?
Oh yeah, only if you have a few more minutes. We can talk for a long time with all of our guests, right, Jake?
Yeah, and there is probably other stuff that you have to do today as well. So I want to be cognizant that
only if you have time, because we spoke this before. Like we talk so much. We can talk for a very long time with many of our guests.
So I'm loading in a couple questions. Number one job that's being hired for in Israel, the most in demand skill set in the GTM right now.
Product
marketing. I agree.
Without a doubt.
Okay. Next, the tool that everyone must use as a candidate to get cut through. That tool that they should be implementing, or the technique that they're probably ignoring.
That isn't. I can't answer that quickly.
Pass. You go to pass.
I think it's a matter of networking without a doubt, and knowing how and coming prepared for the interview, being energetic. I think those would be key.
Okay.
Having a profile. No, wait a second. Their LinkedIn profile. Elaborating on their LinkedIn profile, having the buzzwords there. If their company succeeded in any way, shape, or form, exit, have it in there. If they did something special, won awards, whatever it may be, put it in there. Smile in your LinkedIn profile, or at least something that brings out that personality that makes you want to connect with them. Sorry, I'm adding to this. Communication. Get back to the, if you're in a process, communicate to the headhunter, whoever it is. You have to own your search. You have to own your search. To have someone have to chase you all the time, you'll just lose the process.
Sure. I got a question. What's some jobs that you're seeing have disappeared because of AI, if any?
So content writing, I think it's sort of sad that a lot of companies, I'm not seeing AI taking over so fast, at least not in Israel. I mean, I guess maybe that isn't true. I think that a lot of companies, they're at least writing about it, how they're saving on employees and using more, AI. But that's why I'm trying to get content writers to transition into product marketing.
For sure. I've seen that 1,000 times.
Yeah, different things like that. Sales,
what is this?
Yeah, sorry, go ahead.
Go ahead.
No, I just, I'm not feeling that effect yet.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
My last question. Your favorite non-LinkedIn resource for employers or employees? Non-LinkedIn, because everyone knows that one. Your favorite resource that they should check out this website, they should do what is that tool source? There
are a lot of WhatsApp groups. I think, and I
personal
don't know who's invented it yet, but you can't, I'm not exposed to all the WhatsApp groups, but I think that there you can find so many different opportunities, and it's a matter of finding them.
That's a great insight. Even though, I'm gonna say, it just occurred to me, the WhatsApp groups that I'm already in, there's always someone who says, I'm either looking for someone or I have the CV available. And so even if it's unrelated to the actual group, these things get circulated. Yeah, great one.
Connection via WhatsApp is so easy because you can just turn to that person immediately. You can see if the person read what you wrote. Everything is just so fast. It isn't, that distance when answering to some type of LinkedIn post or ChatGPT group or whatever it may be. It makes it so much easier because it's fast.
I love that. And I'm going to actually include a link. Our first source, I'm going to include a link of 500 WhatsApp groups for different geos and different WhatsApp groups. I'm going to put that in the show notes. But awesome. Tahl, we've stolen enough of your time. You have so much meaningful and important work to do. And we're so glad that you spend the time with us.
Really glad, really happy that you were sharing some of this stuff. There's a lot of great insight here, really, both from the candidate's perspectives for people out there looking, and for hiring managers to take recruiters more seriously. I think it's a big takeaway as well for people in the full go-to-market engine.
I think the bottom line is saying that we really do care. We care about the relationship. We care about helping people. So help us help you. That's the bottom line.
Sure.
Take care.
Thank you.
Bye, Tahl. Thank you so much.
Bye.
It's interesting. You just, on the one hand, you don't know, and you has their gut as to how they should apply for the job or what the CEO is looking for. It depends which side of the equation. And there you have someone it's actually art. It's an art, because otherwise it's, just noise and spam. But how do you actually make that match? It's really an interesting sales profession about how to make that value match.
Well, it's similar to sales in the sense that it does come down to relationship and relationship building. I think for me, one of the interesting takeaways was when you work with a recruiter, that person comes with the knowledge of the full market. who are the good candidates out there? Who are the ones that they're willing to advocate for? Um, does the company have the proper culture match? I think that to me makes the most sense versus sifting through 100
Yeah,
CVs to try to find buzzwords. I
yeah,
know there's AI tools out there that kind of highlight the right
yeah.
CVs, but that means that
Right.
someone could game it, right? But there's nothing that could replace, multi-year relationships. Just like a salesperson, you want to hire someone who's has a proven track record, especially if you're an enterprise of relationship building and sticking with people for long term.
I think it's very true. And the comment about having a long-term relationship, and I put in these other buckets like the spam, the LinkedIn endless CVs that come into the inbox, the friend bring a friend, and I think the headhunter plays that role. If you're using a headhunter just to sift through CVs, that's not what you want. You
No,
want the
that's not the
friend bring a
value.
friend, and that's a very important value that those huge network and deep relationships play. And I think that's important on both sides.
Yeah,
To take
luckily we have
advantage
people
of that,
like Tahl in the
yeah,
market to really support our go-to-market motions. And what we
what a
want to
great,
product market. Yeah, another product marketing. It's something we've had Gabby on, so it's something me and Gabby we talk about all the time. And even when we were working together, it's one of those roles we were like, even years ago, like this is a key function
yeah,
to scaling companies, especially as you move up market. The product marketer becomes more and more key.
sure, we're gonna have to talk about that and how the
Yeah,
content moved there.
let's
That's
bring in
another,
let's bring in a product marketer and see what that actually looks like. Actually, like now that I'm thinking about it.
we have to go
Right. Till next time.
use our network. And maybe Tal will help us find one of those, rare product marketers and see if we can find one of them and bring them onto our show.
Sounds good.
Bye,
Take
Howard.
care, everyone. Bye. Take care,
Bye.
Jake.
Bye.
Bye.